Okay, we have got to the end of day 19 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1. We've been listening to the questioning of Sukhdev and Tish Reel. I'm joined by Suresh Grover, who was really involved with the Real Family campaign. It's been an incredibly emotional day, but I think that both witnesses have been phenomenal, quite frankly, in addressing all the questions that have been put to them and really brought to life the horrific way in which the family was targeted.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're an inspiration to anyone meeting them. And, you know, I've seen Sukhdev live in a trauma, but be very strong and be able to articulate her concerns in a very lucid way. Tish was a young, I think, 14-year-old when I met her.
Yeah.
And she's grown up to be a fantastic, intelligent person who's become a lawyer because of the experience of the family. They were brilliant witnesses. They explained to detail, almost forensically, what the failures by the police in the first week of Ricky missing, the stereotyping they faced from officers who came to the scene, the first investigation and how they were treated, and just closing within literally hours of seeing the family when Ricky was found, the steps they took to find Ricky rather than the police. You know, I remember that day because we kept saying to the police for a week, search the river, because when we were searching, people told us this is the route that he would possibly go if he was chased. They recorded it as a racial attack, but never really investigated it. And, you know, when he was found within 6 minutes because we told them where he would be. That failure, and, you know, Tish explained clearly that when you have investigations in what are known as fluid situations, river deaths, if you do not collate the evidence forensically, witnesses, you're always on the back foot. And then the family was so clear about the impact of spying, the reasons for spying. They totally dismantled this notion of collateral intrusion, which the police say was done to left-wing groups. And when you come into that orbit, you get spied on as well. Obviously, there's some truth of that in that. They were spying on left-wing groups. We had no problem with left-wing groups coming to us and giving us hand. But this idea that once left-wing groups get involved, there is the automatic kind of thing of public disorder and sabotage and subversion is just a total lie. And I think they did that very well because they said it was really because of their tenacity, their framework, their commitment to find the truth, the fact that John McDonnell, the monitoring group and other people stood by them, that, and I think very importantly that, you know, the police's kind of thing was Lawrence's murder was, you know, which I'd been doing was an exceptional, right? And it totally destroys that thing because the Lawrences were actually a public face of a much greater tragedy. So the threat of Ricky Reel's family mobilizing, campaigning, the threat of the Michael Manson family threat, totally shred into this notion that it's an exceptional thing and the police are only interested. The police have got their act together. They don't fail black communities or brown communities systematically. That was really the basis of their spying and us becoming more and more political. You know, the threat of families becoming political, openly challenging the state, and the threat of having what would be really grave crisis within the police force because they've been found wanting, structurally incapable, and systemic forms of racism and misogyny, which is really what this case is about, you know.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic takedown of the nonsense from the police, particularly this issue of collateral intrusion, which you know, was what the police used in 2014 when they met with the families and like kind of excused themselves essentially for the spying, and it was really taken through the way in which Dave Hagan had HN81, who still is not being called by the inquiry, which is an absolute disgrace, had, you know, very deliberately targeted the Real family. We saw, you know, examples of him being referred to in that report, that briefing note by Bob Lambert, that he was well placed in the months to come to spy on the Real family. That him giving a lift to Mrs. Real, you know, after a meeting and really preying on her when she was being very vulnerable. And this nonsense that somehow that they only accidentally spied on, which is a line that the police really relied on when they were talking to all the families back in 2014. I think it's totally been dismantled today.
I think it's dismantled. I think also this idea that black and brown people don't have a political history, that they are not capable of doing political things. You have to have white left-wing groups. That it's just white group left groups do not believe that. That's not the history. We have our own history of resistance, of our history of rebellion, of history of socialism, of our history of being organizing. And we know from other literature that the black justice campaigns and black movements were being spied upon for centuries, not just last 50 years. There are examples of people being spied on, like Michael X at by Special Branch in Hyde Park. There's Indian Workers Association being spied on when they invite Martin Luther King and Malcolm X to their centers. All those reports exist. And if you look at the terms of reference of the SDS, won't you be concerned when 30 cities are blown up in 1981 when black people are resisting? This idea that they're not concerned about the public disorder when riots are taking place just does not hold water. And I think it's been dismantled by the Lawrence campaign last week. I think it's been dismantled by the Real campaign. And with the Real campaign, it is a travesty that somebody like HN81, David Hagan, is allowed to get away with the idea that he's suffering from post-traumatic stress when there's no independent corroboration of that. And his trauma is more important than the trauma of the family that has suffered a murder and being let down by the police over 25 years and being spied upon. Or women who are being targeted in their sexual relations, trade unions who are losing their jobs, people who are activists and they committed and giving their life to a cause and at cost of personal disadvantage and personal grief and personal all sorts of things that are people doing, as if we are not suffering from trauma. I'm not saying we don't or do, etc. I think what is really the important thing in what the Reels were saying was that actually, we have a common aim here. We've traveled and have a common journey, whether we're from Black Justice campaigns or other people, and actually, despite attempts by the police into separating collateral intrusion or more left-wing groups, our bond at the moment is unconquerable. We are going to unite whatever happens. So I think that's what the message is.
Yeah, and a really powerful message at that. I was really taken with what Tish Reel said just towards the end, where she talked about how so many of the reports focused on supposed different banners that the family justice campaigns were involved with, and the way in which that so many of these SDS reports focused on the divisions that existed. And we see this throughout. We see this through all their reports. They were obsessed with perceived divisions, even where ones didn't exist. They could try and sort of push, because so much of what they were actually doing was about undermining, destabilizing, and destroying groups, stopping campaigns from going forward. And I thought it was really powerful the way that she finished her questioning by kind of saying that we are going to work together and we're going to keep going and we're not going to give up on this, which I thought was incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and all families believe that, not just the Real family. People are cautious because they've suffered death in the groups coming in. People will always be cautious that that's not for Black Justice campaigns. That's for any community, whether it's Irish, white, black, brown, whatever. A lot of people I know, white families who suffer death, are cautious on who's getting involved, not because they suspect them, but they don't know who they are. And that is true for most families. They don't know the far left groups or left-wing groups or whatever. But it does, in the end, this. I think the families realize over a period of time, very quickly, that it is the grief is being caused by what the police are doing, and not anybody else. And nobody needs to tell them they've experienced this. I was a coordinator for the Real family. I never stopped them meeting anybody, whether it's Socialist Workers' Party, whether it's anarchist groups, or whether it's the Movement for Justice. They have the intelligence to decide how they want to move on. This idea they can't. And for that, the police are trying to portray that left-wing activists are their mind and their body and they're unthinkable. It's just totally racist, racially stereotyping, I think. And I think Tish and, I think this is real. I mean, for me, every family is important and every campaign is important, and we need to respect the, people's commitment in and passion that they have. But the Reels are one of the few families that have campaigned so hard. They've never given up. She's ill, Mrs. Reel. She's suffered physically, mentally. Her husband has suffered. You can see now, even after how many years, that the trauma comes out because she starts crying when the thing is going. And I think the only solace for her and the only strength for her is the solidarity that has been expressed to the family by people from the left, people from trade unions, people from all sorts of campaigns. And ultimately, what this inquiry really is about, the notion of political policing, which is really about the ability and the right to protest. And I think what we need to bring it out, and what the Reels want to do, and what other families want to do, is look at what happened in spy cops and political policing, and the repercussion and the alarming acceleration to authoritarianism with the government thinking of banning protest and limiting the right to protest. That's what we're really about. And protest is necessary because the state is so strong and unwilling to change and bend and be open and transparent.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're living in times where the right to protest is under threat more than it's ever been. Again, it feels like we're always at that point. And I think so many of the lessons that we're learning at this inquiry are about issues which affect us today. And I hope that what people see in terms of the way so many of the people who've been affected by undercover policing have kind of worked together and challenging what the state has done is really what we need to be doing with current affairs. Really, is working together, supporting each other. Thanks for coming on and chatting to us. You gave evidence yourself last week. It was a fantastic evidence that you gave. We've heard your name being mentioned so many times over the questioning of the last few days, and today again. And I was really pleased to hear Tish Reels kind of point out that they don't trust many people, but they trust you. And I just want to really just pay tribute to the work you've done over the years.
No, thank you very much. It's very humbling to hear that from a family member. But at the end of the day, all of us are committed. There's no extra special in me that doesn't exist in you and others. There isn't. I think the police have made a big thing about my name because it's not possible to corrupt me and win me over. I think that's the problem with them. But at the same time, this inquiry should be giving us disclosure. I have pitiful disclosure. So my name is mentioned in all sorts of campaigns. I haven't got anything that the Reels have got. They haven't given it to me, although my name is there. I have something from the Lawrence.
Yeah.
My name is all over in the Manson case, but they haven't given it to me.
Yeah.
So I think the point of them mentioning it raises the question on how robust this inquiry is in searching and giving us disclosure and giving us all the information that we need to get the information that we need. So the monitoring group is still going on. It does the same work as we did in the 1970s and 80s work. We are still campaigners. It's more harder. It's more perilous now. The police have more powers. The far right are growing. There's going to be threat of more racists organizing. And the police are going to keep watching us. And so we need to have that information to make sure that we prepare ourselves and create a solidarity movement around us,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is still, but sometimes people look at what's happening in this inquiry and they see it as history. It's not history. This is what has shaped the society we currently live in. And these issues are just as pertinent today as they were then. It's been a really long day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure coming here.
No, it's great having you on there. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got the live evidence of Bernard Redwick and also from MSS. Bernard Redwick was the brother of Roger Sylvester. MSS is a family member of one of the Manson family. Yeah. So that should be interesting. Please join us if you can. It'll be starting from 10 a.m. as it always is. Bye for now. Cheers.
Bye.